That's right. It's orange and blue today on a Friday before the playoffs, before we travel to Buffalo. Andrew Mason, how are you feeling?
Feeling pretty good. Although I got to tell you, I'm looking at this shot here that we've got to open the show with. The still from Monday Night Football, November 2023, Broncos-Bills. And if that's how it's looking on Sunday, and it may look that way pretty often, but if that's how it looks all the time, it might not be the best of nights for the Broncos.
Yeah, it could be a little troubling because you got an NFL MVP that you're facing in the first round in the wild card weekend. On Sunday, we will be there, and we'll be bringing you a lot from Buffalo. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason here to ask the question, can you stop the NFL's MVP in Josh Allen?
I'm not sure you can stop him. Can you contain him? Can you limit the damage? Can you also force him to make a mistake? See, that's, I think, what it's going to come down to. And that's going to take some patience. You know, you almost have to say with Josh Allen, he's gonna get his plays. Like it would be like if you're facing Nikola Jokic, right? You have to assume Jokic is one way or the other. He's either going to get 30 or he's going to get a triple-double. But how do you make sure that what he does doesn't completely destroy you? So some of that is timing, right? Like, okay, with Josh Allen, if he's racking up yards, that's great. But are you able to restrict those yards in the red zone? Are you able to force them to settle for field goals? And are you able to capitalize when those openings come? Because he will have, in all likelihood, he will have at least one turnover-worthy play in this game. Probably two. But do you capitalize on it? If you can get your hands on the ball, can you bring it in? Because the Broncos did capitalize on potential turnovers back in 2023, that was a huge reason why they escaped from Buffalo with a win.
And the difference between a PBU and an INT is BIG, Mr.
Yeah.
Mason. I didn't stay up all night writing that.
Did you just come up with that off the top of your head?
Yeah, because you're talking about the turnover-worthy plays. Can you maximize them? I'm not talking about PBUs, baby. Like,
Yeah.
You got to get your hands on it. You got to get an INT. And if it's like some sort of dropped INT,
Yeah.
your chances to get him are going to be slim. So you got to get him when the opportunity arises.
Now, here's the problem. There have been potential takeaways for opponents, but this year they haven't gotten him in a way they've gotten him in the past because Josh Allen this year has 2 lost fumbles and 6 interceptions. Only 8 giveaways in 16 games played.
Craziness.
Yeah.
It's like facing Justin Herbert when Herbert didn't throw picks, but Chris Abrams-Drain did get the pick.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, it's kind of in that similar vein. And I think Allen might be a little bit more wild than Herbert, although with what he does with Joe Brady, it's, on time, on rhythm. He doesn't get sacked. He doesn't turn the ball over. Like, he's different than they were last year. So is Benito. If we look at that picture, Mace, Benito is a different player than he was at that time as well.
Well, he's stronger. That's part of the reason why he's taken the next step. Back then, he was still just basically a pass rush specialist. Now he's an every down, all-around edge who's headed to the Pro Bowl by adding a little bit of weight, and it was all muscle that he added. And then just also improving his discipline. I mean, the thing that you see, it's interesting to look at that photo there, and you see Coop is the one who's being guided kind of behind Josh Allen there. See, that side, there's trouble. Benito, he's drawing the double team, but he's not out of position, right? So that's not going to destroy you. Now, that being said, in this game, you have to have rush discipline. And this is going to be a very fine line the Broncos walk here, generating pressure, but doing so with a plan. And it's interesting that you're going against a quarterback who is at his best beyond structure, yet your rush against that quarterback needs to be highly structured. And that sort of gets into a theme of this week. We first heard it from Nick Benito talking about you can't rush selfish. And here's what he means by that.
Yeah, I mean, just like you can tell when the teams are just kind of rushing selfish, especially against a guy like him. When you see, wide open rush lanes and for him to just run through, and you can see those 30, 40-yard runs down the field, and you can kind of see when a guy or a group of D linemen or rushers are working well together. You can see when they're kind of panicking in the pocket, trying to find ways to maneuver out of it when there's nothing really there. So, I mean, just keeping them in the pocket is going to be the main thing for us.
Mm-hmm. And get your hands up. If you're not going to get home, get your hands up.
The old Bill Kolar thing. Get your arms up and see if you can at least create an obstruction, make things a little bit difficult for Josh Allen. Of course, one of the reasons why we're talking about Josh Allen being an MVP candidate this year is because he's gotten better at beating you from the pocket, which is part of the problem. Similar to Lamar Jackson, these are two quarterbacks who, if you take a trip in the Wayback Machine to 2019, when both of them were in the playoffs, but both were still doing much more with their legs than they are now. And when they did do things with their arms, it usually involved, completely beyond structure, getting outside the pocket. Well, just as Lamar Jackson learned how to operate in the pocket, so has Josh Allen.
Yep. Thanks to Joe Brady. Thanks to the Dirty Bunch. Thanks to getting rid of the ball quickly. And against man coverage, he crushes you.
Yes.
The Broncos specialize in man coverage. My idea is man on Surtan's side and then zone on the bunch side, because they'll have 4 receiving options, 3 in a bunch formation, and 1 running back, usually on the right side. When they do that, play zone on that side. Because if you're playing man, we've talked about it, Mace, you're just setting yourself up for rub routes all day.
Yeah, and they're gonna kill you if they do that.
Yeah, Allen will slice you apart. So in a way, it's like how we talked about the Baltimore game. Mm-hmm. Hey, keep Lamar Jackson in the pocket. Well, he'll kill you there too.
Yeah.
Keep Josh Allen in the pocket. Well, it's pretty difficult. This isn't the old Josh.
Yeah. Now, he doesn't have the same array of skill players around him as Lamar Jackson does. But this is part of the conundrum here. If you put Pat Surtain on one side and just say, okay, take care of that side, that's probably the best way to go about it, because then at least you can take that part of the field out of the equation. The problem is, if you're Buffalo, you don't really have a true wide receiver one. Like, this is we talk about this, Bo Nix getting to that point. He's throwing to the open man. The wide receiver one on any given play, it's somebody different from snap to snap. It's who's getting open.
Yeah. It's a big question. And that's why if it's Amari Cooper, let's say Cooper does play and hopefully the personal stuff is cleared up or whatever.
Yeah.
But so it's like Pat Surtain takes away Amari Cooper. Yeah. He threw touchdowns to 13 different players. So and that's an NFL record, I believe. Touchdowns to 13 different players. And I guess I take a little bit of an issue, not what you said, Mace, but I have heard Zach say it on the fan. I heard James profess it on the fan of it's Josh Allen and a bunch of nobodies. Like, you and I saw Khalil Shakir. Yeah. We remember at the Senior Bowl what a blankety blanker that guy was. He was awesome. I think you and I appreciated Keon Coleman, especially at the combine. The dude's Mr. Personality. He's fantastic receiver, big-bodied receiver. But it's like, I guess I kind of take a little offense when James or Zach is like, it's a bunch of nobodies. Like, no, it's spreading the ball around. No Jamar Chase on this team. But, Khalil Shakir can play. Those tight ends can play. They have 3 running backs, all that would start in Denver.
Dalton Kincaid could absolutely be a problem as well at tight end.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a big-bodied receiver. He always has been.
Yeah. I've actually been a little bit surprised that he hasn't quite launched in terms of productivity to the degree that I thought he would.
Tight ends take 3 years.
Yes, and it's not always an upward progression. Like, tight ends take 3 years. Shall we remind everybody of that if the Broncos end up with Tyler Warren?
I'm just saying.
Brock Bowers is the exception.
And he's not a tight end. Dalton Kincaid's kind of in that line of a big bodied receiver. And what is he? Is a third year, fourth year? What is Kincaid now?
He was a rookie because he was a rookie when the Broncos went against him back on Monday night in November of 2023, and
next year he'll be better.
5 for 51 for a touchdown, and we know this team still has trouble covering the tight ends.
Well, we're not going to talk about covering, Mace, but I'll just give you a number. Is it over under 5 for 51? Because I'd almost say over, just on this dirty bunch and the way they set things up. And if I'm Joe Brady, I go, where's 40? I ain't talking about Von Miller. I'm talking about Justin Sternad. And I'm attacking Dalton Kincaid. And Dawson, I like Dawson Knox.
Yeah.
All around tight end. He's a good old Y tight end. You know what I mean? He's a good player. Here's a good player. Keon Coleman's a good player. They do have options. And I believe Curtis Samuel's going to play. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he was healthy.
Believe so, yes.
Report this week. He's been a little bit banged up this year. And he's kind of a gadget guy, kind of their version of Marvin Mims. So he could be like an X factor. Do not forget about these guys, man. Not at all. And this Broncos defense has their hands full. Jaquan McMillan versus Khalil Shakir could decide this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and here's a chance to show just how far McMillan's come. I mean, I think that has the potential to decide more than Riley Moss's matchup.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to
Moss will get Keon Coleman. If he gets Coleman, that's a win for Moss.
I mean, you're actually honestly, if it's Keon Coleman on Riley Moss, if I'm the Broncos, I'm sort of hoping Josh Allen tries that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if he tries that, if he tries to exploit that matchup 3 or 4 times, I think one of them ends up in a turnover.
Mm-hmm.
Which is saying a lot for Josh Allen being a low giveaway quarterback this season. But I think if he tests Riley Moss enough with Keon Coleman, who, physical freak, but man, just inconsistent. And that happens sometimes when you're a rookie. But, there are opportunities here, but for the Broncos, but man, it gets tougher when you're talking about not having a true wide receiver one, because then you don't have a focal point.
Right. And we're going to take this guy away. Well, okay.
Fine. It's like, it's like if you've got liquid and you're trying to kind of, contain it, gets, it moves around, right?
Mercury.
Thank you. That's better. Mercury. You try to contain mercury. It's gone. It's always changing form.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's kind of an amoeba almost.
How do you defend that?
Don't. You don't. And this is why, they may be sitting there talking about on the radio, they don't have they don't have big name talent. Yeah, somehow without the big name targets, they were second in the league in scoring and they averaged 30.9 points a game. They figured it out.
They're all right.
It's just because they don't have the big name doesn't mean they're not going to make big plays. Actually, let's just go through this here in terms of pass catchers. There are 6 different Buffalo Bills that have had receptions of at least 40 yards this year. And actually, if we do at least 35 yards, it's 8. 8 different players have had at least one catch of 35 yards or more.
James Cook has to be in there too, right? Because that running back can kill you as a receiver as well.
No, because he only has been 28 yards, although he's averaged 8.1 yards carry. But
that's good.
By the way, those 8 players with at least one 35-yard catch this season,
yeah.
You know who that doesn't include for the Bills? Amari Cooper. His long is 30.
Yeah, he hasn't done a whole lot since coming over to Buffalo. Still dangerous, still a seasoned veteran, but he's not the Amari Cooper even of a year ago.
No.
When he was the bee's knees with the Browns.
I think what happened is for a few weeks there, he became something of a decoy and teams focused on him in their coverage.
Open things up.
When you started to realize that he didn't have the same spark as earlier, and you didn't have to worry about him as much, then teams adapted accordingly. But, it's really sad to say for somebody who just a year ago was a 1,200-yard receiver. But, man, Amari Cooper this year has looked old.
Mm-hmm.
Old.
Catches up to you quick, man.
Yeah. He's not aging like Mike Evans, unfortunately.
No. And not our Mike Evans either, who's fantastic.
Talking about the future Hall of Famer, Mike Evans.
Yes.
I know there are some that are like, oh, is he a Hall of Yes. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like,
no doubt.
When you do something significant, and the only other person in NFL history did it is Jerry Rice, you're not going to have to wait long for that gold jacket when it's your turn. Mike Evans, Hall of Famer. Book it.
Not to get us off track, but did I ever tell you my Mike Evans combine story?
No.
I fell asleep on his shoulder at the Indy airport.
Oh.
Because he was sitting next to me. I was like, and it was one of those like drool sleeps.
Oh, so no.
He didn't move. And then when I woke up and I was like, sorry, man. And he just started making fun of me.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, at the end of a combine, those guys are probably so wiped out.
Yeah.
Even if they don't work out, they're wiped out because of interviews and doing medicals for like
32
10 to
reports.
Yeah, like the conservatively, you're going to have 10 to 12 meds. A lot of guys are doing 32 checkups, and yeah, like that's funny. Anyway, so you're talking about Vance Joseph.
Yeah, what's this set us up here for the not selfish pass rush? We got a couple clips from Joseph we need to get to. You want to start that one, or you want to start the can't contain him?
Let's start with that, and because of course I followed what Nick Benito said on Wednesday by asking about that on Thursday. On Thursday, when he answered questions, and that sort of illustrated the danger of what happens when you don't come at Josh Allen with a plan. When you just kind of wing it, you'll pay, as VJ says.
Well, our guys do a great job with that. For 2 years now, we've had games where we couldn't rush by ourselves. A guy like Josh, if you're rushing 4, it's 2 gaps open. So if everyone's not on the same page, he can take off anytime he wants. And if he steps through the B gap, it's dangerous because he can run for 40, or throw it for 50. So rushing together is always key. And having a plan to box him in and to get him on the ground and to chase him when he's moving. The biggest issue is the secondary, staying in coverage that long and plastering receivers. They do a great job with their scramble drill of finding the quarterback's eyes and making big plays. Again, most of their big plays are made on the second act, so that's our challenge this weekend.
Okay, where are you second act? Where are you most worried in the plaster part?
Second act.
Yeah, but no, like what area? Because I'm thinking linebackers, safeties.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's because. And it's instinctual. It's human behavior, man. You're going to see him step up. And if I'm Justin Sternad, and Justin Sternad is like a million times better than me, but I would go towards him. And that creates space behind you.
Yeah.
And that's the problem area.
But the thing is, if you don't go towards him, if he sees a quick 10 yards, he takes off and gets it. This is why he's so dadgum good. Josh Allen has that innate knowledge of where to go. So let's play the other VJ clip here, because he talks about containing him. Can you contain without rushing him? You can't, can you just kind of if you're the front 4, can you actually just go into contain and not attack? You can't really do that at all.
Well, yeah, You can't just contain without rushing this guy. So that's the issue. If you try to just contain him without putting pressure on him, he's going to buy time and just make plays. So the issue is, how to contain a guy and also push the pocket and pressure him. So, again, I won't share a game plan, but you have to have ways to do both.
I won't share our game plan. Remember what happened when the game plan was shared before the Baltimore game?
Yeah, he kind of told you what he was going to do. He didn't tell you this time. VJ's learning. And that's kind of based on a beautiful picture, Mace. And maybe I should put it back up on screen. But I was just thinking, how is Benito different? How is Cooper different? Brandon Jones is different.
No.
How is this team different? Because you and I haven't done it, but I've heard some like, well, it's like last year. No, it's not.
No.
No, it's not.
This is a much better Buffalo offense. Remember, the day after that game, they fired Ken Dorsey, their offensive play caller. Part of the reason why they fired him was, well, first of all, their offense was inefficient. Wasn't producing in the way it's produced since then. But remember that game, James Cook had that early fumble.
Yep.
And basically Dorsey stopped giving him the ball for 2.5 quarters. When he gave the ball to him in the fourth quarter, he was running through the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos were very lucky to escape with that win. And if Dorsey doesn't go away from James Cook, Buffalo probably wins that game comfortably.
Yes.
So that's different. Now, the Broncos are different at safety as well. Remember that game, Delarian Turner-Yell got forced into the lineup because of injury.
Right.
The Broncos were doing well early when it was PJ Locke and Justin Simmons together. That was very effective. The Broncos were containing the Bills. And then PJ Locke gets injured in that game, and you have to go with Delarian Turner-Yell. And unfortunately, that's where things started to crumble. And in the end, by the way, PJ Locke only played 20 snaps in that game. And when Turner-Yell was out there, the Bills chose to go right at him.
Yep.
Not good. But then again, I mean, I did a piece on that toward the end of last season and in the offseason, how much less effective the defense was when Turner-Yell was out there versus when they had some combination of Justin Simmons, PJ Locke, and Kareem Jackson at the safeties that year. So, but it was also a theme this year because what happened in Baltimore, you were without one of your starting safeties. PJ Locke was out, Devin Key was in.
And Key got work.
Yes. So one thing you don't want to see early in this game is either Brandon Jones or PJ Locke going back to the locker room. Pardon the pun. If that happens, oh boy.
Yeah. It's going to be a rough one, man. You got to contain Josh Allen as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Him as a runner, we haven't even talked about, Mace. Like, we bring up James Cook, but we could also bring up Ray Davis, who we loved at the Senior Bowl.
Yep.
We could bring up Ty Johnson, who's been rejuvenated. You know what I mean? Like, and then Allen can just take off to run, like VJ said. And if it is a B gap, yeah, that's a 40-yard run. If it's an A gap, it's a 40-yard. It's just a 40-yard run, basically.
Yeah. By the way, Josh Allen's leading the Bills' backfield in yards per carry. Actually, Keon Coleman has 1 carry, 9 yards from the receiver position. But when you're going through the Bills' backs, quarterbacks and running backs, Josh Allen, 5.2 yards a carry. Ray Davis, it hasn't quite clicked for him yet.
Still got speed.
He's got speed. He's been a much more effective pass catcher than a runner.
Mm-hmm.
See, Ray Davis is one of those dudes who's got one of those explosives. He's got a 63-yard catch and run to his name this year.
Look out.
Yes. It still focuses on James Cook, who nudged over 1,000 yards, 4.9 yards a carry. Like, he's still the alpha. But Ray Davis goes out there, man, that's a stress point. And we talk about the linebackers in coverage. I think you flare Davis out there into space and maybe test the linebackers by having them try to contain that young running back who, yes, we did like quite a bit.
Wheel route
coming out of
Jonah
Kentucky.
Ellis.
Yes.
Wheel route on Jonah Ellis. Sorry, it works. It works. And Jonah hustles. He hustles hard, but that's a tough ask for a rookie edge player.
Yes. By the way, Ray Davis coming off of a game, his second best rushing game of the season last week against New England, partially because, I think it was a throwaway game, but you can't.
New England won.
Yeah, you can't bench everybody. I mean, Ray Davis is going to play on Sunday, But it was a chance for them, I think, to get him, get a little more under his legs here, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This final one we got from Jonathan Cooper, I think it kind of fits. This was a question from you for Coop. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Talking more on his birthday. Happy birthday, Coop. Talking more about the consequences of being selfish and how communication can help you avoid that. In other words, basically what he's going to explain here is if you are in the Broncos front seven, this is not a game where you want to make it up as you go along.
You taking your chances, rushing high, opening up that B gap just for him to escape, and you didn't tell anybody on the D line, so they're rushing, and they don't know that you're doing all that, and then all of a sudden you got a big play. It's got to be communication on the line. You can't just keep it to yourself and then go out there and freelance and think, oh, I'm gonna rush high, or you're gonna take an inside move and give up that edge like that. So, there's a couple things that go into it for sure, but you just can't be selfish.
Talk to each other, everybody.
Yeah.
And I'd say that for the safeties as well.
Yeah.
Especially in zone. They've struggled when they play zone, but they need to against Buffalo. And
one thing that does happen when you're on the road and the crowd is quiet, you can communicate. Sort of the interesting thing. The offense will obviously, for the Broncos, deal with a cauldron of noise there in Orchard Park. Defensively, you can make sure everybody's set. You can start talking. Do it. Like take advantage of that. So this is one thing where being on the road and having that communication down, it may actually help you that you're going on the road. If you're at home, you're not going to be able to hear a thing. There's no excuse to get this wrong, to get this wrong in this game. And yeah, this is not the time to get the idea in your head and go out there and try something on the fly, because then you're letting down your team. This is one where you have to stick to the plan. Stick to the rush plan. Don't go taking the law into your own hands, so to speak.
No hero ball.
Yes. And that can be hard, but you got to stay disciplined. It's like going way back to the Tim Tebow year. What was the thing that was the kryptonite for Tebow? It was everyone staying in their spot. It was edges not getting caught behind Tebow. It was discipline, sticking to the plan. When that happened, and one of the games that happened was right there at Orchard Park on Christmas Eve of 2011, Tebow was terrible. Josh Allen obviously has a lot more, and I don't think you're going to turn him into a terrible quarterback on Sunday, but if you're going to have a chance, you've got to stay freaking disciplined up front. Otherwise, he'll be the one taking off for that 50-yard run, and you're going to be ashes.
And he can slice you up. And I know, again, to the last year people,
Mm-hmm.
What do you have last year? Like 150 yards passing, whatever the number is. He could double that. Just give me the number, Mace, because whatever it is, I could say times 2, and that could happen in this game.
177 yards passing.
So he'd have to have, 340? Don't make me do math.
354.
Could he get 354 against the Broncos defense?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you better hope that there's enough to win a shootout.
Well,
we'll get into that on Saturday.
Yeah, that's our Saturday show. And to wrap up today's show here on a Friday as we're traveling, I think it's very fitting. Your mind's always moving, Andrew Mason.
Always in motion, the future is.
But you bring up the MVP and Nikola Jokic. And how do you play against the Denver Nuggets? He's going to get his. Hopefully Jamal doesn't chip in, or MPJ doesn't chip in. So Josh is going to get his. You lessen it as much as you can, and then hope that James Cook doesn't go off, or Dalton Kincaid doesn't go off. Like, that's kind of fitting that you bring up Joker to kind of kick this thing off.
Yeah. Except that he's going to have his place. He's an MVP. He's going to get his. He's good, really freaking good. But it's funny to say, to talk about the run game. The run game is what kept the Bills in it in November of 23, because James Cook, even Despite barely touching the ball for a while after the fumble, James Cook still had 109 yards and Latavius Murray at 68. They combined for 178 on 21 carries.
Whew.
Okay. So they found a way for what should have been a win for them, but the Broncos escaped. Broncos made enough plays, had the key drive when they needed to, and Buffalo rightfully got called for too many men on the field on the field goal at the end. But if Josh Allen goes for 300 plus yards in the air and James Cook goes for 100, the score is going to be ugly.
Mm-hmm.
If Josh Allen goes for 300, but James Cook is like 15 for 43, I think the Broncos have a good chance to win this game.
I think that's like a 35-31.
Yeah.
Because Bo could go for 300.
At that point, then the Bills haven't controlled the pace of the game.
Yes.
See, this is also going to be a tempo game. And this is why, again, I go back to the whole thing. If I want the Broncos to win the coin toss and get the ball and have a nice 8 to 10 play drive and establish some primacy over the pace of this game. Make it your game, not their game.
Give the ball to me. Give it here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You being Bo, give me the ball. I want the ball.
Actually, there's a Sam Kinison joke that I can't tell that's kind of similar to that. So my mind goes to Bugs Bunny or Sam Kinison. I've had a demented childhood, Mace. Just don't let's not talk about it.
That's okay. That's okay.
We're getting slappy, but we're gonna be traveling, and I'm just looking for OBT on the road, baby. Like, let's do this thing, man.
OBT and WNY. Western New York.
There you go.
Yes.
Before we're out of here, hopefully everyone has a great Friday. We're going to have a Saturday show for you, so stay tuned for that. But before we are out of here, Mace, how can folks continue to help us out so much on YouTube?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never
miss a vid. That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.